Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our YNR chat for Sunday, March 1st, 2015. The Hilary thing really shocked me this week. I was so in it by Friday. I didn't know what the entire week was going to have in store because last week was disaster week and this week is repercussion week, and I didn't quite know where all of the chips were going to fall. But by the end of the week, I was just really kind of marveling at the writing. I have to say, I like the way the disasters of last week have twisted the show in a new direction. I think sometimes we get a little stale and we get a little expectant and we suppose that things are going to be the way they always have and the way we want them. And I like that this switched up the story a little bit, particularly when it comes to the Winner's family. Neil goes out in place of Devon and he's able to find, he didn't really even rescue anyone. He goes out looking for help and somehow the rescue team finds him. I mean, he was laying down in the snow ready to pass out, and the rescue team found him, brought him back to life, and he was able to direct them to where everybody else was. Certainly, if Neil had been a little more vindictive, he could have just said, "Oh no, I'm the only survivor," but he did, I suppose, save their lives. But in another way, we're seeing Neil kind of being at least labeled briefly as this hero that saved everyone, and I thought all he did was wander out into the snow. Kind of stupidly. But anyway, the rescue team was able to locate everyone, so everyone's fine except that pilot. Everyone's home in Genoa City, but nothing is the same. I like that. I am enjoying seeing how this has created little cracks in the relationships. When, certainly with Lily and Kane, Jill and Colin are probably more solid than ever. But most largely, the cracks in the relationship, of course, between Devon and his father, Devon and his sister, and Lily and Kane, but of course, Devon and Hilary, and how going through this near-death experience and the way everything came out about the big secret has, I think, certainly caused some cracks in the foundation of their relationship as well. Hilary has been rushed to the hospital. She's in a hospital bed getting her treatment, and Devon is by her side, and they're talking about everything that went down, and Devon's presenting the situation as, well, I don't like that this is how it all had to happen. We've been through something traumatic and we've hurt Neil, but at least we can be together. At least we can be open about our relationship now. And that's sort of always the line that Devon has taken. Hilary is a little more reserved, a little more reticent, but at the same time, they're realizing that now they have to deal with getting what they always wanted, which was to tell Neil. And Neil's revenge is something that I've enjoyed a lot. I liked it last week. For as long as YNR has dragged out that stupid blind storyline triangle thing, they're really bringing it home now. I loved Neil coming into Hilary's hospital room and having this air of, I don't really want to be here. I don't really want to look at you. I could care less if you died, but we're on the same insurance plan, so I gotta be here to sign up some papers. In fact, there was a brief little scene between Neil and Devon where Devon is thanking Neil for saving their lives, and Neil said to him, "Don't thank me, thank Lily, because if it wasn't for her and the thought of her being back there at that plane crash site, I would have let you all freeze to death." changed forever. That relationship changed forever. Neil continued on to come into the room and talk to Hilary, and boy, he got a couple of good zingers in. Neil's been hurt, and he is not shy about throwing it back on the two people that hurt him. He even comes up to Hilary with their wedding rings in a baggie. The nurse has given him their wedding rings, and he's holding it up kind of in front of her face and saying, oh, you remember these? Hey, these survived the plane crash. Takes the baggie, tosses it at her, lying there. She's kind of in a helpless state, and Neil is realizing it's just the tables turned, so why not? She had no problem preying on him when he was in a helpless state, so he tosses those rings at her and says, oh yeah, by the way, I also found this ring that Devon gave to you. Do you want that? Tosses that at her as well. Even goes as far as to say, I'm going to take your things, I'm going to pack them up, I'm going to send them over to the athletic club. Where should I have that addressed, by the way? Should I have it sent to the room where I discovered you and my son in bed together? Great scene, just really great scene. And I mean, the payoff was so good after all these months of waiting and waiting. Hilary and Devon, on the other hand, are kind of going into protective mode, Devon especially. Hilary is, I think, having seen Neil at this point, I think seeing Neil, the way he's treating them both, clearly feeling like the relationship is over, not only between he and Hilary, but Hilary realizing that the relationship between Neil and Devon is pretty much over, and how much Devon was willing to sacrifice for her, this relationship with his father. Devon's willing to sacrifice his relationship with his father to be with her. And then I think Hilary, seeing Neil's reaction in the hospital room, throwing these rings at her, it initiated a change in her. Something seemed to snap. We all know there was something that Hilary was wanting to tell Neil at the crash site. She called him over last week and said, oh, come here, there's something I want to tell you when I die. She didn't end up getting to tell him, but now she did the same thing in the hospital room. She says, Neil, come on, there's something that you need to know. I am exactly the same person that I was when I came into town. You wanted to believe that I had changed and that I had become a good girl, and it was possible for me to reform, and yes, even possible for me to fall in love with you. But what you need to know now is it was all an act. I never loved you. I never changed. I orchestrated this whole thing. I got what I wanted from the very beginning of when I came into town. I wanted to destroy you. I wanted to destroy your family, and guess what? Mission accomplished. And now I'm done with ya. It was a very good performance. It was a shocking moment. I couldn't believe it. I immediately didn't believe it. She's telling this to Neil, and Neil is sort of skeptical, but then Devon kind of opens up the door and starts listening in as she says, you weren't the only part of the plan. I not only manipulated you, but I manipulated your son too. I was able to worm my way into your life, his life, and use all of this, everything I've done, to take you down. Devon busts up in the room and he says, no, Hilary, you're lying. I can see exactly what you're doing here and you should stop it. And it was clear that Neil was of that mind too. I immediately thought, oh, she is self-sacrificing. This is part of her big plan. She has seen what the relationship with Devon has done to Neil and to Devon and the damage that she's caused, and she is deciding to just throw herself on the landmine so that these two can hopefully heal without her. I mean, Devon was willing to leave town right now. He always was willing to leave town, leave any relationship he had, any roots he had, and run away with her so that they could just be together, kind of calm down. And I think in that moment, I realized that she was just faking it. She was trying to save Devon and save Neil, and that those relationships were bigger than her own happiness. And I really believed it, but I have to say, as she went on and on trying to convince both Neil and Devon that they were nothing to her, I started thinking, gosh, I mean, this is pretty convincing. It really rang true to me that, well, especially in a world where we know we have new writers, we know it's sweep season, we know YNR likes to mix things up a bit, we've seen other drastic character switches, and so there was a part of me that was like, well, I suppose YNR could be twisting this to now Hilary's just a bad girl. Forget the story, forget however they've built it all along, but maybe YNR is just going to twist it, let Hilary be a villain, and I was enjoying it. I, again, didn't believe it at first, but when as I started to kind of get into everything she was saying, I thought, well, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good twist. It creates a new dynamic. It creates new rivalries. It's depth. I mean, nothing is all one thing. To think that she would orchestrate it all from the very beginning, every step along the way. She went as far as to say that being with Neil and Devon both was pretty much revolting to her, that she couldn't stand being around them. Neil eventually took it as truth and left, but Devon is sitting by her bedside saying, I don't believe this. Everything we've been through together, you're gonna try to tell me now that it was a lie? And she just insists. She is, in fact, quite cruel to Devon. She even takes the ring that he gave her and tosses it at him, tells him to get out of the room. I mean, you could hear the ring just pinging on the floor. Everything that they've shared just meant nothing to me. She even said something like, how could you gave me a ring, what are you, 14? She knew where to hit. She knows both of these men throughout the course of living and sleeping with them. So she knows what the sore spots are, and she hit it. Now, the question is she lying? Is it real? And I felt turned off, or I'm sorry, no, not turned off. I felt just confused in general by the turn. I felt probably the way Devon felt, like, okay, well, I've been with you guys throughout this whole relationship. How is it possible that all of that was a lie so carefully orchestrated? And I just kept thinking, I want Devon and Neil to just leave the room so I can just see a shot of her face. All I want is the shot of her face when she is alone. Devon leaves the room and they still don't show it. And I'm like, I don't get it. I really want to know. Well, Neil had gone home. Or I'm sorry, no, he had gone to Lily's, and he had had a conversation with Lily to tell her everything that Hilary just said, that she just blew up this whole world. And Lily was already on fire. She was already furious, and this was just a big can of gasoline drenched on that. Lily doesn't miss a beat. She's like, I got someplace to be. She goes to that hospital. She wakes Hilary up from her sleep, and there's this darkened scene where Lily is confronting Hilary and saying, I always knew that you were this piece of trash. You have no emotions. Well, guess what? I can be the same way. And if you want to continue this little act that you're doing, or, if you want to continue to try to hurt my family, you better believe that I'm going to hurt you worse. It was a great rivalry. There was even this little smile on Hilary's face as Lily was coming at her so viciously, almost like she was this sadistic character, like she would have been okay, or in fact pleased by a rivalry, or the fact that there would be some kind of new challenge for her. And I wanted to believe it in that moment. I've flip-flopped so many different ways of, oh, do I want Hilary to be good? Do I want Hilary to be bad? But in that moment, I thought she was just so compelling as a bad girl, and I liked the idea of a real sort of sadistic rivalry between she and Lily. It would give Lily a chance to bring her claws out, whereas she's always so pure. And not that I want Lily to be hurt, but I just think it would be interesting to view. But then it seems like it kind of twisted again. The scene shifts to Neil, who is now with Kane. And Kane is just learning the truth about, or learning the quote-unquote truth, what Neil has told him about what Hilary has said, that it was all a lie. And Kane is saying, I don't know about that. I've been witness to this whole affair from the beginning. I think she's lying right now. I think she really does love Devon. I've seen her in private moments that make me think this. So I think it rang true with Neil a little bit that she might still be lying. But Neil's response is, you know what, if she thinks that by doing what she's doing that I'm just gonna forgive Devon, then she dumped him for nothing. Pan over or shift over to a scene of Hilary finally alone in her hospital room in the dark, crying, just crying and crying and crying. And there's part of me that still has an eyebrow up. Did that scene of crying completely negate all of the viciousness that came out of her? Is there any chance that there's a little bit of truth to any of it? Maybe it's not all one thing. Maybe she's not a character that is either good or bad. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it's somewhere in between. And I think that if she is playing this up, then Neil was exactly right. Then she just dumped Devon for nothing. All of these people in the situation are going to end up with nothing, which is also kind of a beautiful way to write the story. So I don't know what you guys think about all this. How has this shaken out in your mind? Do you see Hilary as a good character or as a bad character? I think that if she's really gone bad, I think she'll stay in town. And especially because she, you know, if she's a horrible person, she's probably going to want to stay in town to see how this all plays out, because several times she even mentioned the look on your face right now is exactly what I've been building towards. So if she is that sadistic, she'll want to stick around to see how it all plays out. If she's lying and she's still in love with Devon and so willing to sacrifice herself, then it would make sense to me that she would leave town. She has no ties. Staying in town would serve nobody. So I think what Hilary does next will say it all. I do want to zoom in a little bit on Kane and Lily's relationship, because they're an unfortunate casualty of all of that. And again, if it was orchestrated from the beginning, then it was pretty perfect, because not only would Hilary have destroyed Neil and Devon's life, but certainly Lily's too, because Lily, even back at the crash site before they had been rescued, Lily is adamant, I will never forgive Kane or Devon. Neither of them. I mean, she's probably, I have no brother, I have no husband. Lily is staunch. She has been lied to. It was the one thing that she and Kane said that they would never do. She feels that rather than treating her like a partner, that Kane treated her as something to be protected or something to be lied to. And I do understand where Lily's coming from. I wouldn't want to be lied to. At the same time, I think because I've been along with Kane on the journey and I've seen the choices that he's had to make along the way, I think I tend to sympathize with Kane a lot more. In fact, Kane has really risen up as a star for me out of this storyline, which is unexpected. He's just really been wonderful throughout, and I find myself wanting Lily to forgive him. I thought that at the crash site, there were aside scenes where Jill is kind of trying to convince Lily to forgive Kane. Colin is trying to convince Kane to fight for his marriage, and Jill gave Lily this little piece of advice that I thought was very true and very telling, and maybe not only true to this situation but to other storylines throughout the show. But Jill's advice was, sometimes good people do the wrong things for just with the best of intentions. And I think that is sort of a theme that's going on here. And Jill seems to really understand that that's where Kane's head was when all of this was going on, even if Lily doesn't understand that. When everyone is rescued and Lily and Kane get back home, they end up going back to Lily and Kane's house, and I did laugh at the scenes with Esther. It's sort of weird seeing Esther now, because I don't want to focus in on Esther forever, but I mean, I've always kind of been annoyed, not even kind of, I've always been annoyed by Esther, let's be real. Her walking around in her stupid maid outfit, it's just, it pinpointed her into a period, pigeonholed her into a period of time, and everything else moved forward, but she was still right here in that French maid stupid uniform, and it annoyed me that Esther has not developed at all. She's just this set piece, really. And I kind of liked seeing her out of her maid's uniform. She's sort of old school. I just sort of appreciated her vibe a little bit. She was a worrier, but she's also this extra chipper person. She was watching the kids and trying to take care of everybody the way that she always does. I loved her, like, trying to give Jill a blanket and Jill throwing the blanket off, like, if you want to help me, get me a drink. Speaking of long-standing rivalries, a la Victor and Jack, that's another good one that isn't focused on as much. So I did actually think Esther was kind of delightful this week. But as Lily and Kane are coming back into their home, back to the place that they were only a couple of days ago, but everything is different. It's clear that Lily is holding on to the grudge quite a lot, and even though everyone's given her the advice to stick with Kane, even though her kids are in the next room sleeping and wanting their father and wanting their family, Lily tells Kane, I don't really even want you in the house. I'm gonna have to find a way to tell our kids why you're not gonna be here tonight. Which, I don't know, in some ways I feel like Lily's reaction was surprising to me. I would want to listen to Kane. If it was my husband, knowing what we'd just been through, knowing the love that's there, knowing him, knowing what his intentions should have been, I would at least want to listen to him. And I don't feel like Lily has really given Kane court since any of this has happened. She just put up a wall immediately. You'd lied to me. I'm done. And I'm sure she had sort of a preconceived thing about her, like, you know, letting Kane back into her life after he died and all that jazz, threw up this one condition into their relationship: you cannot ever lie to me again. And probably in her head through all this time kind thought, well, if he ever crosses that line, that is it. That is it. He got one chance, not two. So I kind of understand both sides of the situation. Kane had sort of a surprising reaction. He's like, not going to continue to beg you. I'm just going to leave. So he leaves. He goes to the club and he's drinking and dealing with business, and he's upset. And he ends up having a conversation with Colin, who follows him there, where he says, I don't feel like, I understand what I did, but I don't feel like my wife is even really knowing me. I don't think if she knew me at all, she would understand why I did what I did. And furthermore, how is what I did, quote unquote, lying to protect her feelings, any different than what she did with Tyler just a few months back? Remember Tyler? Where the hell did he go? They didn't even explain that, but I digress. Kane is saying, she lied to me to try to protect my feelings, and I forgave her and I tried to understand her, and I think Kane had a point. So I like the storyline because it's put the winners front and center, for one. it's been too long. I mean, the winners have been background for too long. So I like seeing them up front in an engaging way. I like that things have been mixed up and changed a little bit. To me, it's the most compelling story for the past 2-3 weeks. And I think we're going to see fractures that are just going to continue to go, to spread. Jill had eventually talked Lily into forgiving Kane, or at least listening to him, and yet it seems like Kane is not really willing to put himself out there the same way that he was. And I wonder if any of you guys noticed there was this brief little scene between Kane and Sage, where Sage and Adam are trying to get a hotel room and Kane can't give it to him, but there's just a private aside where Kane and Sage are talking, and it seemed like surprising to me that Kane would open up about his relationship, not even really opening up, but even mentioning it, even sort of alluding to the fact that there was a problem in his marriage seemed uncharacteristic of a solid couple, or uncharacteristic of them. And Sage is also very unhappy in her relationship. She's clearly trying to move on with Nick, but we all know when that blows up, when it's revealed that Gabe is Adam and all that, the Nick and Sage thing is not going to end up working out. Nick will not have it. So I wonder if Y&R is testing the waters for a little bit of a backup affair here. As we came back to the rubble of the underground at the beginning of the week, I really was caught by, or enamored by, the production quality that went into creating that underground maze of wires and boards and metal, and it was really cool. And I thought, you know, we've really come a long way. Can you imagine the difference in what Y&R looks like now versus back in the day? I mean, what would your grandmother think of Y&R in 2015? It's just amazing how much the production quality has gone up, even from the old days. I think it's very impressive, and I don't think it can really be overstated. We give a lot of attention to the stories and the actors, but I do think the set builders there did a wonderful job, and just in general, I thought it's a really cool scene. The thing that has probably not changed since your grandmother's day is Y&R's trying to pull the old Jack and Victor are missing. They could one or both be dead in the rubble. Well, don't even try it, Y&R. I mean, you know what? I am not even falling for this Victor or Jack might be dead thing. So don't try to pull on my heartstrings about it. I haven't been watching Y&R for 20 years to think that Victor and Jack are dead in there. Don't even try to trick me, okay? So that part was sort of, I zoned, you know, it's hard to emotionally connect on the idea that Jack and Victor might be missing, but all of their family are gathered at Crimson Lights, Nikki and Avery, and have been pulled out of the rubble. Nikki, on Monday's show, was coal-faced and slurry. She's worried about Victor. She's probably coming off of a bad binge. She's probably shaken, needing her alcohol fix, and she just looks like a coal miner. I'm thinking, doesn't this place have a bathroom? Maybe some paper towels and some wash rags? I know you're worried about your husband and your friend, your husband and your ex-husband. I get it. But I think I might take one moment to myself to go to the washroom and just clean that up a little bit. There's some, maybe we should get some props to the makeup department too while we're at it, because you know there's somebody over there with a powder, putting the black powder on all of them. It was a little funny. So again, Ashley's there, worried about Jack, Nikki, the whole Newman family. Everybody's there worried about Jack and Victor. Kelly shows up. She has heard about the collapse at the underground. She has called Jack many times, and he's not responding. So she shows up at the back door, total crazy eyes, total crazy face, looking like she's off her freaking rocker, wants to understand what's up with Jack. Why can't I get a hold of Jack? And Ashley, it becomes this mediator. Phyllis is in the front part of Crimson Lights. Kelly's trying to sneak in the back, and Ashley's like, oh, no, Kelly. I think you need to just turn around and leave, which would have been really great advice. But Kelly, in her desperate tone of voice, is proudly announcing that Jack would want her. She has every right to be here just as much as Phyllis does because Jack had sex with me. Jack made love to me. He chose me. Oh man, girl, she is delusional. It happened. We all saw Jack have sex with her. But thinking that Jack would have chosen her, even at this point in the story, is ridiculous and delusional because Jack still tossed her dress. He still did her, tossed her dress, told her to get out, and just wasn't loving. There was nothing loving about it. So Kelly has already had a disconnect from reality before everything else in the week happened, which was Phyllis. Even though Ashley tried to keep Kelly and Phyllis apart, of course, Phyllis sees her there, gets up on her, is like, what are you doing here? And Kelly doesn't miss a beat before letting Phyllis know that she and Jack had sex at the underground. And I think she even said, like, he made passionate love to me at the underground before it collapsed. And Phyllis is shocked. She has already shifted her mind out of being mad at Jack into understanding and deciding to forget it, deciding to move on. The Kelly stuff doesn't matter. I love Jack. They were put in this situation where he could have died, and she's set her watch to Jack's beat now. And Kelly comes up, drops this bomb, and Phyllis is thinking she's completely crazy. They have a fight. Phyllis totally got in a slap on Kelly, which I enjoyed so much because we haven't seen that before. We saw Kelly slap Phyllis, but Phyllis hasn't slapped Kelly, I think. So that was kind of fun to watch. And Ashley becomes yet again the mediator because Kelly has made this accusation that she's had sex with Jack. Phyllis asks Ashley about it because Ashley knows and Phyllis can tell, and Ashley doesn't say, yeah, I think they had sex, but she said she had to tell Phyllis, yeah, I saw them coming out of the room together. I don't know exactly what happened, but there's evidence enough to turn Phyllis around. I'm thinking Jack could survive the whole underground collapse and Phyllis could just turn around and kill him because now the seed is there. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? He didn't say anything about it in the rubble. Back in the rubble. Nick is now finally, he's able to put aside his lust for Sage and now think about the fact that his building on his watch has collapsed on a bunch of people, and they might possibly there might be dead people inside of his club. So Nick has gone to join the rescue mission, wants to find Victor, wants to find Jack. There's this moment where they find a body in the rubble, and oh, is it gonna be Jack? Is it gonna be my dad? Who's it gonna be? Oh, it's a bartender. Some bartender that we've never seen. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna talk about Austin and all that stuff a little bit later, but I'm gonna tell you right now, Y&R built up this whole Deadly Valentine's thing and all of these disasters. The only people out of all of this, out of all of that craziness that are gonna have ended up dead at the end of this are the bartender that Nick just found and the pilot. Mine are just made up two imaginary people just to kill them off. So enjoy that and don't be fooled. So Nick finds this bartender and he has this tender moment of, oh, the kid had friends. It was so cheesy and kind of dumb. Like, Y&R, you could have skipped it. I wouldn't even have cared, but whatever. they're finally able to locate Jack first, get him to safety, get him out to the hospital, and it was just after Ashley had confirmed the relationship with, or the incident with Kelly to Phyllis. So Jack is rushed to the hospital. Phyllis is like there wanting, you know, to be with him probably. And I think she even had another confrontation with Kelly in the hall, I want to say, at the hospital. I think Kelly followed to the hospital. It was like, oh, Jack's found. Ashley and Phyllis and Kelly, they all go to the hospital. Jack begins asking to see Phyllis. Phyllis goes in to talk to him. And I thought she was going to stab him or something, but the thing is, she questions Jack about the sex. Mysteriously, Jack doesn't remember a thing about it. Never happened. Never happened. He cannot even believe that Phyllis would accuse him. He swears on everything that is holy that he did not sleep with Kelly the way we all saw him. So, I mean, come on. I think we all know what's at afoot here. But the scary thing is that as Jack is insisting that this never happened, Kelly overhears. She's at the door listening, and she overhears everything. She is horrified. The look on her, in her face and her mouth wide open, like how did this change? Not in my favor. She busts up in the room and Kelly turns the volume way up. She is yelling and screaming, saying, how could you say that? She even, like, when she realizes that Jack's not on her side, she even kind of tries to appeal to Phyllis. Like, how can, you're gonna let him make a fool out of both of us? This happened. Believe me. I really, great scene. That was a great scene. The doctor even had to come and bust it all up. I really feel as though I've connected more with Kelly once the character turned a little more unstable. She was not exciting to me when she was just boring, I listen to classical music lady, but now she was really giving me like wounded woodland animal, wounded squirrel lashing out. You know, I'm wounded, but I gotta fight for my life a little bit still. And I thought it was just a really wonderful performance. And I just think I think Victor's at a foot here. Victor is a foot here. Jack is really lashing out at Kelly, figuring that if Kelly would lie about the fact that they slept together, then she'd lie about everything. That's sort of the premise of what his response to Kelly was in that hospital scene. And that to me says he genuinely doesn't remember what happened. I don't think Jack is lying about that. I think he genuinely doesn't remember. As he's accusing Kelly, Phyllis is like jumping right to his side. I don't know what Phyllis must be thinking. It must just in general be well, if Kelly would lie about all of the sabotage and the wig and all of that stuff, the charges, if she would lie about all of that, she would lie about the fact that they slept together, but that doesn't explain what Ashley saw. So Phyllis is kind of in this weird in-between state of, I don't really know what to believe, but I think there's a part of Phyllis that believes Kelly, that wants to believe Jack, but that believes Kelly. Now, Victor still has not been found at this point. So his family goes back to the ranch, assuming he's dead. Yeah, right. Everyone is trying so hard to comfort cold-faced Nikki, and she just gets so damn tired of everyone offering her tea that she goes straight to the bar, straight for the bottle, pours herself a drink, drinks it in front of everyone, in front of Victoria and Abby and Nick, everyone. She's just like, hey, why not? Cat's out of the bag, nothing left to lose now. And just as she sits down with her little tumbler of vodka, we hear the door open and a very familiar voice say, well, might as well pour me one too. Victor is dusty, he's dirty, he's thirsty, but he is like a phoenix rising from the ashes. He is alive. Well, I'm surprised he couldn't resurrect the bartender too. Come on, Victor. He is alive though. He sees Nikki with the drink in her hand and kind of takes it out of her hand and says, we'll talk about all of this later, but right now I just want to get a shower. You know, Victor gets out of the rubble and his first thought is, I want to go take a shower. Nikki gets out of the rubble and she just wants to like sit there with the dirt on her face. Weird. Maybe it's a new beauty treatment for her. But Victor stumbles a little. He does not faint, but he stumbles a little, and everyone in his family is like, no, you're going to the hospital. You need to get checked out. You're not made of steel. So Victor does go to the hospital, and guess what? Okay, you guys. The hospital's so full that they're gonna have to not give Victor Newman. It's probably the Victor Newman Memorial Hospital. No, it's not. But the Victor Newman wing of the hospital. They can't even give Victor Newman his own room. He's gonna have to share a room with some commoner. They wheel him into the room where Jack is lying, and I lost it. I thought it was so funny. I mean, the whole Victor and Jack thing just really made me laugh. Both of these guys were stuck in the rubble together, fighting about everything all along the way, but the fact that Victor saved Jack's life also does show he doesn't want him to die. And there was a moment where Jack finds out that Victor didn't make it out of the rubble before he gets to the hospital. And there's this feeling from Jack of, what would it be like if Victor really was dead? I mean, Jack thought Victor was dead. And he had a kind of epiphany moment, I think, where it's like, I think he felt sad. I think he felt bad. I think it was a lot of emotions. Like, I hate this guy, but I don't want him to die. So Victor rolls in his wheelchair up into that room, and they're lying there in adjoining beds. It was just so enjoyable because it was this dynamic. It was a love-hate dynamic, I suppose, and hilarity ensued, let me tell you. It's funny, just them quipping at each other. Jack's in pain and needs a drink of water, and Victor can't even be bothered to help him get a glass, and then there's this scene of Victor coming toward Jack with a pillow, and Jack is waking up thinking, oh, Victor's gonna smother me, but Victor's just trying to bring him a pillow to make him more comfortable. It was so good. That to me is the essence of Y&R. I couldn't enjoy anything more unless it was another Jill and Catherine rivalry scene. It was The Odd Couple. I bet you they did it because I think CBS is doing an Odd Couple a remake of The Odd Couple, so I think somebody even mentioned that, Abby maybe or somebody, but it was just cute to see them together. I think that for Victor's part, it's a little more nefarious. I think Victor, it's almost like a cat that wants to play with its mouse before knowing ultimately that it's going to kill it. That's sort of the vibe I get out of it. But Victor tells Jack that he wants to make a proposal, that they stop all of this craziness, all of this rivalry. And Jack's like, wait a minute, wait. You want us to be friends? And Victor's like, no. We'll go on hating each other, but we'll just be friendly enemies. But I kind of like the idea of Victor and Jack as friends, like going on a hunting trip, going on a fishing trip, maybe, hey, them putting each other's arms around each other at a baseball game, and or maybe skipping through the park holding hands, or I wish Y&R would have done, it would have been freaking hilarious if they would have done a sequence of Victor and Jack being buddies, like being best friends in the world. If they would have done a 10-second sequence of Jack and, like, this alternate universe where Jack and Victor become friends, oh my gosh, I would have watched it every day for the rest of my life. If they made it funny, it so could have worked. Dang, maybe they will in the future. Somebody take note of that idea, that would be so great. But no. Victor's proposal is, let's just be friendly enemies. We don't need to destroy each other. And in fact, Y&R did some flashback sequences. They showed, the chair, the Jack throwing the chair out the window of Newman Enterprises, and the wind, breaking the window in this high rise, and the wind just blowing back on Victor, and Jack saying, "Have a seat on me." I remember that when it aired. It was wonderful. What was the other rivalry moment? Shoot, there was another flashback and I can't remember it, but that chair scene just sticks out in my mind. Oh yeah, Victor. Oh yeah, Jack's coming at Victor with something like, it looked like a crowbar or something, and like he's gonna beat him to death, and Victor just grabs a stack of papers and like throws it at Jack. So paper beats crowbar, apparently. I don't know, but it was a good flashback scene. And you think for a moment that, oh, okay, these guys have come to an understanding. Maybe this is gonna be a new era of Victor and Jack, but no. Next thing you see, Victor shows up at a church, walks into the confession box, and somebody on the other end is sitting there, and he said something like, "Thank you for coming. Our plan is working perfectly." So there's just no question in my mind that Victor has the love potion. He had the love potion. They didn't introduce that into the story for no reason. He had it, and I think he used it. I think he used it to cause this problem, between Jack and Phyllis. I think he doesn't want Jack to have Phyllis, and he wants to win, moreover. But the question is, of course, who's sitting on the other side of that confession box? Who is who is Victor cohorting with to undermine Jack this time? And I think it would be easy to say it was Kelly. It would be easy to say that they're working together to try to break up Jack and Phyllis. But there's a part of me that thinks maybe that is too obvious. Why a confessional? It to me seems a little more like it would be consistent with a Patty thing. Patty always had, in and around her story, the Catholic themes. She was always very religious, and it just seems a little telling to me that he met at a church. I can't see it being Kelly. Plus, I just think it being Kelly is obvious. At the end of the day, I just wonder if Kelly's just kind of a nut bar, not a scheming mastermind. I did enjoy the revelation to Adam that Jack and Victor might be in danger. He was so, caught up in his apartment fire that he didn't realize the underground had collapsed. And I enjoyed seeing Adam's reaction to, of course, thinking that Jack might be dead and feeling sad. And in fact, even going into Jack's hospital room and telling him, I really think the world is more interesting with you in it, and that's their way of saying, I have affection for you. Maybe we don't always get along, but I have this affection for you. And I also enjoyed seeing Adam's reaction to the potential that his father was dead, and he didn't talk about it much, but I wonder if there was sort of a sense of the same thing as with Jack and Victor. Like, I hate this guy, but I don't want him to die. He's my father, he's done me wrong, but I don't wish him harm. So it was interesting to watch Adam's reaction to his two father figures possibly being hurt. Billy is at the hospital. He's completely fine. They got Connor checked out, which is the only reason Adam was there. But Billy's completely fine. Like, he had smoke inhalation. He passed out on the floor, and yet somehow he's like, yeah, he's fine. Just still, joking it up. His shirt's a little dusty, but he's cool. But Billy now has a new resolve to finding out who Gabriel really is. He has this weird sense about him. There have been all this, mysterious things that he said. Billy saw the bullet wound that last week and knew there was a story there. Questions Gabe about it, and Gabe comes up with some lie about women, but it creates this weird moment between them of, kind of understanding, understanding the emotional elements behind wanting revenge. And I think maybe that was Adam's way of kind of saying, I sort of maybe understand what you did, and I don't know, we'll see. But, so Adam kind of explains his way out of that, and when Chelsea comes back, they have this moment alone where Gabriel decides to reveal to Chelsea that his marriage to his marriage to Sage is a sham, which is a half-truth, but then he lies and says it's just one-sided. He says, well, we're married for the money, but she doesn't really love me. In fact, he leads Chelsea to believe that they're in this sham marriage and he loves Sage, but Sage doesn't love him back, which of course makes Sage look like the bad guy and makes him look like the poor lovesick puppy dog, that Chelsea's gonna want to help and make better. So it's yet again a beautiful manipulation of Chelsea, just one of many that we've been seeing. So Chelsea is tuned in to Gabe even more now. She wants to, I think, know him, wants to help him, and Billy wants to know him too. He is bound and determined to find out what he is hiding. Why did this guy save my life? Why do I get this weird vibe out of him? He's looking online for information about Gabe and realizing that it's not really consistent. Everything he's seeing online about Gabe is saying that he's a happy-go-lucky, smiley playboy guy, and it's not fitting the demeanor of the guy that he's seeing. So Billy is more and more curious. Gabriel or Adam and I wish they'd just reveal this so I can just call him Adam. But Gabriel and Sage are in the wake of the apartment fire, not able to find a place to stay in Genoa City. There are no hotels available because of all of the disasters. So they're kind of put out, and Billy and Chelsea have just taken up residence at the Abbott cabin for now. I think the apartments are going to come back. I don't get the impression that the whole apartment building burned down. I think that an apartment caught fire across the hall and they just are going to, have those sets, just keep those sets out of our eyes for a little while and then bring it back. But it also creates an interesting situation in the meantime, because Billy decides to offer to, you know what, why don't you, Gabe and Sage, you stay here with us at the Abbott house, just stay with the Abbotts, why not? I think it's a good storyline twist. I think it's gonna be good for the story. I mean, can you even believe Chelsea and Adam gonna be roaming around those halls? This is like his dream come true, but it really works out for everyone. Billy is gonna be able to keep an eye on Gabe while Gabe's keeping an eye on Chelsea. The cabin thing. What happened at the cabin? It's for me, it's gone from being the most exciting storyline to being the most perplexing storyline. The whole thing was out of left field. I don't know what to make of it. I think anything that we theorize at this point is just that. It's just guessing. I don't think there's any way of really putting it together. Weiner hasn't given us enough information. Austin was dead, and then they came up with this big plan to move his body out into the snow and come up with a lie to cover up for the fact that Summer apparently killed him, and then the body's missing, and the cops show up just as they're realizing the body outside is missing, and they have no chance to come up with a lie. So it's just lies, twisty. I don't really know what happened. I'm so confused. The cops, Summer's wondering, is he even dead? Summer's, right from her lips is saying, is he even dead? The cops show up. They send out a search party to look for Austin because now they've said, oh, he went out. We don't know what happened to him. Maybe go find him. He's in the snow. So the cops are out searching for Austin's body. Everyone else has to go down to the police station to give a statement. Summer's losing her freaking mind. I mean, she's on the verge of a panic attack. She doesn't know what to think. I can't imagine what must be going through her head at this time. Losing her husband, thinking she killed him. Where was the body? I mean, what? It's freaking nuts. It seems like it's way too many people involved in the lie for them to even pretend that they're going to get away with it. Paul and Michael are seeing straight through it, realizing that there's something more to the story. I don't know if Paul's going to eventually get in and figure out what's gone on. He is the super sleuth, so who knows? But there's also just so many people involved in it that little bits of the secret are coming out here and there, and you're wondering what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, Paul gets the news that, oh, we found Austin. He's alive. what? Okay, he's dead. Now he's alive, but oh crap, guess what? It's not Austin that they found. They found Kyle. Kyle's recast, and he was out there at the cabin, and they found him in a ditch. He slid down a ravine. He was trying to get to that Valentine's Day party of Abby's, and which she invited him to, and it got a little dicey there, so he just decided to hoof it to the cabin in a snowstorm, and then he fell down in a ditch. Took a search party to find him. Probably could have almost died. But he's fine. Everything's fine. He's fine except for the fact that nobody trusts him. Now there's this extra element, a brand new element through which it's impossible to predict. As Kevin and Mariah and Noah and Summer find out, oh, it was Kyle, not Austin. Okay, that's weird. They go back up to the cabin to help Kyle get his car back or wherever it was stuck, and they find a bloody rag in his car. It's just too obvious. Am I the only one who believes that Austin is staging this whole thing? He has motive to do it. It was obviously not who we thought he was. We thought he was Mr. Nice Guy, but in fact, he was a cheater and a weirdo and a liar. And I keep remembering being all strange when they were playing that party game right before he died. They mentioned murder, and he was like, man, he huffed off. And I just think Austin was in a frame of mind of feeling like these people don't understand me. I don't like any of them. I don't know how I got caught up in this family and this mess. Whatever. He's sadistic. If you want to talk about priors, this guy, he's got problems in the head. He took a gun and tried to kill Avery. So to me, it would be consistent with his character that he would decide just to show these people and stage his own death and try to pin it, especially on Kyle. I mean, why not? I don't know. Noah says he remembered seeing Kyle. It's so annoying the way people just keep remembering things because it's impossible to predict. But Noah says he remembers seeing Kyle out in the snow, but he didn't really. All he saw was a shadowy figure, and I don't know. I just don't know. What do you guys think of the new Kyle? That's the more interesting thing, I suppose. He certainly is smug. He's giving me rich kid villain. I feel like he might as well have a sweater tied around his neck, with a little loop, and maybe I'll go sail my yacht or play some croquet, or something. I don't know. I kind of liked it. I did. It's hard to connect with somebody right away, but I did kind of like, oh, they're sort of headed in this smug, rich brat sort of vibe way with him. Not as sophisticated as the last portrayal of Kyle, but it's more interesting to me if he's just a brat. He seems like he could be Jack and Diane's weird little son, pretentious little son. Maybe a little evil, I don't know, but I don't think he's a murderer. I don't think there's anything that would really lead me to think that he is the murderer. But the group is like Kevin and Mariah and Noah, they're all zeroing in on Kyle, saying he did it. Summer is insisting that he didn't. The cops show up and tell Summer that they found Austin, and he was in a red car on the highway in an accident. So not in the snow, not out in the woods, in some kind of red car, having been in an accident. Summer goes to ID the body while Kyle, he is very wanting to be there for her and be there with her. In fact, he kind of followed her there to where she's gone. She's ID'd the body. She shows up in the chapel or whatever. She reveals that it was Austin. It was Austin. I think she even said something like they didn't clean up the blood. Or did she? Am I getting that confused? But I think she said something about that there was still blood on him. So I think it's just too obvious that Kyle did it. He did lie. he lied to Summer about even having been at the cabin. Like he says he never made it to the cabin, and yet at the same time we saw a flashback from his perspective of looking into the cabin and seeing everybody passed out. So we know Kyle was there. I don't know. I don't think Kyle had anything to do with it, even though he was lying. I think it's not Austin's body. I think that Summer couldn't see because of all the blood, and I think Austin staged this whole thing and he's sitting back somewhere enjoying the show. Oh my gosh, I had so many comments over the course of the past week. Like, YNR fans came out in droves, watching the show, watching our YNR chat, and feeding back, like letting it fly. There were a lot of comments. Please don't be offended if I haven't read yours, because there's just so many. I just tried to pick out a few. Rocks Grace on YouTube says, let's all talk about fan fiction. With a dead body right there in the room, and let all of them, including the cop, Courtney, albeit not a very believable one, and Mariah, who refused to say a white lie to help Sharon keep faith, but agreed to lie about a dead body. I have to zero in on that sentence because it really caught me. Mariah refused to say a white lie to help Sharon keep faith, but is willing to lie to hide a dead body. I thought that was a really good point and a really good example of how some of the stories that we've seen are really compelling, but not necessarily character consistent. Rocks Grace goes on to say, yeah, that's not out of character at all. Oh, and let's just add that this affair that supposedly happened off the air between Abby and Austin, even though since they've been married, we've seen Summer pretty much attached to him at the hip. Summer's always with him. I don't even know why, or I don't even know when Summer and Austin, I'm screwing this up. I don't even know when Abby and Austin would have had time to have an affair, maybe while Summer took a shower. I just like that point because I just like that it does kind of point out some inconsistency. The Abby and Austin affair certainly has come out of left field, and there was some implication too that Abby knew him, she was in love with him, and we saw a flashback of how their affair ended up happening, that Austin was at the cabin trying to get away from Summer, and how she bought him that tie, oh man, that tie, and they just connected and an affair happened. I mean, whatever, I'll go with it, because I'll go with anything at this point, but it's not consistent, I don't think. Silvana called into my voicemail and was talking about Adam and what's going on with he and Chelsea, and Silvana's kind of was talking about the slow way that Adam has ingratiated himself with Chelsea and worked his way back into her life. Silvana says Adam saved her son, which will always make Chelsea be grateful to him, I'm sure. And Silvana also mentioned that it seemed reminiscent of Adam saving Noah, which kind of solidified his relationship with Sharon. And I also wanted to toss that point out because I know Adam did save Noah. He either saved Noah or Faith. There was some point where Adam saved the children. I thought it was like a snowy, icy thing or something. I thought I'd throw it out to the crowd, because if anybody could remind me of what was the other storyline where Adam saved Nick and Sharon's kid, that'd be good to know. Silvana also mentioned that kind of put my little red flag up, that Victoria did seem awfully worried about Billy. So it's kind of also signaling that Adam and Chelsea will end up together, and that maybe seeing Billy in this weakened state kick-started Victoria's feelings for him again, and maybe Billy and Victoria will gravitate back to one another. Debbie Bear 95 on YouTube says, I honestly have no sympathy for Neil in the sense of this affair. Yes, what Hilary and Devon did was wrong, but she never should have married him in the first place. Neil clearly saw that Hilary and Devon had feelings for each other before he decided that he wanted to marry her. He had just broken up with Leslie, was looking for a rebound, and he pushed himself into that equation. Hilary never loved Neil, and the only reason why she got with him is most likely because he gave her a sense of security that she probably didn't have growing up. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a horrible thing what they did, especially with Neil going through the blindness. I just think that Neil brought all of this onto himself. I think that's a really good point. And I agree to an extent, especially with the fact that I don't think Hilary ever really loved Neil. I really think that the strongest point there is the fact that she was with him out of maybe a sense of security and maybe a sense of loyalty as well. Gina from Australia had called into my voicemail and just kind of mentioned, just one of the things I picked out was she was really giving Jess Walton some love, talking about what a really good performance that Jess had given as Jill this past week, and furthermore that Jess Walton does deserve some credit and respect for her years of work at YNR. I really agree. It's Gina, like, you know, the performance and Jill being in all of this is one of those things where it's sort of background information because there's so much else going on, but I agree. I really have enjoyed Jill being around. I enjoyed seeing Lauren being really worried about her sister. I think that was a good emotional tug, and I liked hearing Lauren kind of reminiscing about Jill and the kind of woman she is and how strong she is. And I will be really looking forward next week, I assume, to maybe seeing when Jill and Lauren are reunited. Aunt Daisy on Facebook says, I agree that Jack was influenced by the love potion. I am swaying, though, to believe that Kelly knows, because Victor had gone to her office and told her they need to work together so that they can both get what they want. Although I think that even if Kelly knowingly used the love potion, she may have thought it was a perfume and didn't actually know the side effects. I'm inclined to agree that maybe Kelly had some kind of knowledge, but that I don't see her as being really complicit in it. I don't know why. Now, Victoria, I hope I got that name right, commented at yrchat.com that says, I think you're half right about Jack. I think, yes, it's the work of Victor, but I think also Jack wanted to give Phyllis a reason to go off the edge by having sex with Kelly. So there is certainly an argument to be made that Jack is just straight up lying. And Victor had questioned Jack about that in the hospital room, saying, you're lying about all of it. And Jack did sort of allude a little bit, so I think it might be being left intentionally vague. We'll just have to see, I suppose, how that pans out. But it's certainly possible that Jack is just lying, just straight up lying, and that's the answer. I got a voicemail from Anna, and she was kind of talking about the Victor and Jack rivalry, and the storyline just hit me in the right spot. And Anna was saying, you know, every show needs this nemesis relationship. Jack and Victor need each other. Batman needs the Joker, and every yin needs its yang. And I thought that was a really good way of putting it. That's how I feel too. Last comment, I'll end on Gary's zinger for the week. It was a comment from Monday's show, and you better believe I was feeling it. Gary says, Nikki looks like an absolute hobo in this fiasco. I love that comment because I hadn't put together the hobo thing, but it did look like a hobo Halloween costume. Like they could have got Nikki some cut off finger gloves and maybe just, I don't know, paint the beard, maybe gave her a hat like an Emmett Kelly sort of vibe, the little hobo stick over her shoulder. But yeah, I thought that was pretty genius. Nikki's hobo chic. Ooh, I'm wiped. That was a lot of YNR chatting. How about it's your turn now? Why don't you leave me some comments? I always read them. I always appreciate them, and I do try to respond, kind of pick and choose just what I think sort of fits, and try to respond in the following week's YNR chat. So you can go to yrchat.com. You can leave comments there. You can go to, from there, find me on Facebook, Twitter. You can send a private message or post it on the wall or under the video or anything like that. the whole social networking thing is there if you want to use it. Or you could call into my voicemail. The number is area code 309-588-4569. So pick or choose your outlet. I would really love to hear from you. And now I think I need to relax. It's been 2 weeks of long way in ours, or long way in our chats. There's just so much to say. I can't help myself. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you have a good week. And ooh, Lord, I'll see you next week. Bye.